It was December 22nd, 2011, and I found myself standing at my parents' grave. Now, my parents had passed away years before, but here I was, a 51-year-old man, and I was running to my parents for advice and counsel. I was in crisis. My firm was over $800,000 in debt, and our managing partner had just resigned. I had just come from a meeting with my two other partners where they asked if I could lead us out of this mess. Let me give you a little bit of background. So my firm has been around for a long time, 25 years at that time. We had a very successful practice. We had a strong brand. We were good in the marketplace. But we were struggling for many years, just as all of you were during the recession. We had a lot of reserves that kind of carried us through until about 2011. In March, we ran out of those reserves. And we laid off most of our staff. But we had a couple of projects that we just couldn't finish. But those projects had no more fee left. So I had to keep staff to finish work that was not able to bill on. But we kept thinking. We had two new jobs, and they were going to come any month. Well, about August of 2011, we realized those projects weren't coming. From August to October, we incurred our debt, $800,000, of which $600,000 was owed to consultants, my colleagues, my friends, who did work, good faith, and we didn't pay them. In November of 2011, the managing partner resigned. I had to hit the issues head on. First, I had to make the decision that I wanted to go forward. And I'll be honest with you, bankruptcy looked a whole lot easier. But I knew in my heart that's not what my parents would have wanted. I was taught to pay my debts. So we decided to hit it hard. I called every creditor. Those calls were not very fun, but I called every one. I said, give me some time, I'll come up with a plan. I needed to find some more work. I needed to move my office to a smaller office. I needed to reduce all my expenses, and I had to keep the staff that was left calm. So we had a little bit of success. Picked up a couple of small jobs, and then moved our office in March. And I was able to negotiate long-term notes with every one of my consultants. And I was fortunate enough to get them to hold off until April of 2012 to start the payments. I'm proud to tell you today that by April of 2014, we paid off all our debt. We were able to hire some staff back. We picked up new work, and we were beginning to thrive again. But that's not why I'm telling you this story. I'm telling you this story because I want to share the lessons that I learned in a really tough time. And maybe, just maybe, these lessons will be important to you at some point in your life. When I became the leader of the firm, I really had never led a firm before. I led a department, I had a marketing department, and I was a real supportive leader. So we would talk about things, I would support my staff to do a great job. But I learned in a time of crisis, supportive leadership is not the style that's needed. I needed to be directive, something I had never been before. My staff looked at me and wanted to know how we were going to do it. How will we get through this? I had to be directive. I could not waver. And we had to finish our projects on time because we were paying a lot of debt. Every month was a lot of debt. I learned that it takes grit to survive. There's going to be bad days and there's going to be worse days when you're in crisis. And when we'd have a good day, my business partner and I would look at each other and say, when's the next shoe going to drop? You have to dig deep, and you have to think that you're going to get through this. You have to be resolved that you will get through whatever crisis you're facing. I remember how much we struggled with just the notion of we were trying to term out our line of credit with the bank. And if you've ever dealt with a bank when you owe them money and don't have money to pay them back, not a lot of fun. But over 3 or 4 months, we were able to negotiate a long-term note with the bank. But they wanted all 3 of us partners to sign. And I had a partner who said he wouldn't sign. I had to do something I had never thought I ever wanted to do, but I had to fire a partner. Because we could not let the company be hinged on one person's selfish response. We needed to be in it together. We were volunteers. And by the way, we were at 0 salary, which was a challenge in itself, especially when I went home to tell my family that Dad doesn't bring a paycheck home anymore, and I had a son that was just getting ready to go to college, and he wanted to know, was he going to be able to go to the college that he had picked? So I had the duality of home and business stresses at the same time. I learned that you have to stay true to your values when you're in times of crisis. I remember when I first called all my consultants and said, guys, I don't know how I'm going to pay you, but I will. And you can imagine the sarcasm that came back from that, because I really didn't have much trust left with those guys. And so I had to build trust on the fly with them while I was trying to negotiate a way to pay them back without any work. When I was able to talk to them, I said, how about I call you every week and let you know how we're doing and how we're going to pay you back. And as soon as I have a plan, I will share it with you. You'll be the first ones to know. I had this one consultant who I owed the most amount of money to, and he called me every day. I pick up the phone. Craig, you got my money? No, Dave, I don't have your money. I'm working on it. I need some time. The next day, the same phone call. After 4 or 5 of these phone calls, I finally said, I had enough. I said, Dave, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to put you out of business. I said, well, that doesn't sound like a good business decision to me. If I go out of business, you don't get paid. I need you to root for me. I need a champion, because I just need time. Allow me the opportunity to make this right. I need help. I need you rooting me on. So he finally agreed to a 2-year note with interest. And I was happy to do whatever it took to get that done. But he called me every time I sent him a check. And he said, hey, Craig, got the check? Thank you. I'm rooting for you. When we made our final payment to him, I got a very different call. He said, hey, Craig, you want to go to lunch? Yeah, Dave, let's go to lunch. So we sat down across from each other. We had a little bit of a discussion about family and vacations and whatever not, you know. And he reached down and he handed me back the last check. And I said, Dave, what are you giving me this check back for? He says, you earned it. It's about the amount of the interest. I said, you shouldn't reward me for doing what I should have done from the beginning. He said, let me tell you, Craig, there were 6 firms that owed me money over this recession, and you're the only one that paid me back. He and I are still very good friends, and we still do some business together. I learned that leadership is a team sport. Everybody thinks leadership's lonely, and it's only lonely if you make it lonely. You must develop a circle of advisors, of trusted people that can help you when you're in these times. And my accountant, my attorney, my wife, my banker, they all became these trusted advisors. I would ask them all kinds of questions. How do I get through this? And they all gave me their perspectives. But I didn't have to take all those perspectives. I had to make those decisions. So here we are, 5 years removed from that. The firm is doing really good. I'm really proud of what we did. But we learned some things that are I'm never going to be able to forget. The first thing, I learned how to have gratitude. And I thought I had gratitude. But I am more grateful now for my clients and my consultants and my employees than I ever have been in my career. And I'm never going to forget that. I also learned that I learned the business. Right? So I'm an architect. I was a marketing guy. But in the midst of all this, my CFO died of cancer. And so my business partner and I, we had to learn the books. At the same time, we were trying to figure out how to hire somebody. And at the same time, we were trying to figure out how to make all this stuff work. And we had to go back and audit every single thing we had to make sure that we were, I said, that's going to be the icing on the cake. We're going to make it through all this stuff, and then we're going to go out of business because we didn't keep track of it right. I also learned that you have to stay positive. Positivity is what matters in these situations. And you need to find a positive rock. I did not want anybody to know what we were going through. I didn't want to ruin my brand in the marketplace. I didn't want anybody to be afraid to ever contract with me. I needed somebody I could talk to, somebody that would listen to me, somebody that would let me cry. And I found my brother, my younger brother as it might be, and without him I would have never made it through it. So, what I want you to take away from this, I want you to think about leadership is not about saving the world. Leadership is doing the right thing every time you have a chance. It's making small decisions in accordance with your values. And when you do that, you will build your leadership capacity. Because you know what? You don't get to choose when you become the leader. Leadership chooses you. And if you built enough capacity, you'll be able to handle it. I learned that leadership is really not lonely. You can make it lonely if you want it to be lonely, but leadership can be so much more. It can be enriching, and then you can grow every single day. The other thing that I learned, and I feel really good about this, is I'm not afraid anymore. There's nothing that can happen to me in business that's going to ever faze me again. And I learned this because I led with a marketing mindset. And I want to challenge all of you to think of this, because marketers should be the leaders of our firms. And I'm going to tell you why. We have all the skills and tools that it takes to do it. We have communication skills. We can see the big picture, and we can see all the little tasks that we have to do to get there. Right? We can persuade anybody to do anything. That makes us uniquely qualified to be leaders. And every one of you should be the leaders in your firms, because our firms need you. They may not know they need you, but they need you so desperately. So what I'm going to ask you to do is on Monday, when you go back to your office, I want you to sit down, I want you to reflect upon this talk. And every time you have a chance to make a little tiny decision, little thing, make it in accordance with your values. Build your leadership capacity so when one day your turn comes, you'll be ready. Thank you.